Okay, the live thing is there.
Yes, nice. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, which is being organized as a part of Education USA's flagship application camp series 2022. Today's topic is dollars and cents. Financing your US education may be easier than you think. Before we get on with our session, here are some housekeeping rules. We're always curious about our participants, so please introduce yourself by typing into the chat box or Q&A box your first name. Are you a student, parent, counselor, and where you are from? We recommend you use a headphone for our session today, and kindly keep your microphone muted at all times and your video turned off. Questions will be answered at the end of the session. Feel free to post your questions anytime during the presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar and have questions, do reach out to us via our social media channels. Today's webinar is a part of the Education USA India's application camp series of webinars where we aim to provide accurate, comprehensive, unbiased, and credible information about studying in the United States. If you have attended the previous session, we are happy you've joined us again. If you missed the previous session, the recording can be found on our YouTube page. We do have 6 more webinars to complete this application camp series. Please do register for the upcoming sessions and attend them all. All the topics discussed in this application camp series are displayed here for your information. We are very excited to announce our Education USA South Asia Fall Virtual Tour 2022. For those of you planning to pursue your master's and/or PhD degree, please do register and attend the virtual graduate fair on September 3rd. For those of you planning to pursue your bachelor's degree, please do register and attend the virtual undergraduate fair on September 10th. Both events are free. We hope to see everyone there. Education USA is a US Department of State network of 430 plus international student advising centers worldwide. Our 8 centers are conveniently located in Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi, and are hosted by 4 host organizations, namely USIEF, IAES, Y-Axis, and Yashda Trust. That's us. If you're joining us from outside India, we welcome you as well. You can locate your nearest Education USA center by looking up the educationusa.state.gov website. Unfortunately, due to unavoidable circumstances, Brown University is unable to join us this evening. However, I'm very pleased to welcome Shishir Kumar Upadhyaya, Principal Advisor, Strategic and Global Initiatives at the University of Southern California in India, and Kathleen Joyce, Assistant Dean for Student Recruitment, Syracuse University College of Engineering and Computer Science. A very warm welcome, Shishir and Kathleen. I am your host, Anita Bose Natarajan, and joining me is my fellow Education USA advisor, Ramya Ashok, who will be moderating the question and answer session. We do also have 2 powerhouse colleagues, Deborah Rosario and Pritika Sachar, who will be helping us at the back end of the webinar. Thank you, Deborah and Pritika. On that note, we will jump right into the session. Over to you, Shishir. Please go ahead and share your presentation.
Everyone, I hope you can see my presentation. So Ramya,
Yes, Shishir.
Great, fine. So thank you, Anita, thank you, Ramya, and thank you, Deborah and Pritika. So I would like to thank all my fellow, participants today and those who have joined in. It's a pleasure to be part of this event, although, I was roped in later, but I would try to do justice with the topic in hand. So, financing the studies is a very important aspect of the education journey of student. And it's always advisable to have that preparation done beforehand, then, thinking about it at a later stage when the student have the admits in hand. So there are few things which families should consider as well. Students definitely is at the center of it, but please do consider these aspects. So when you think about the studies and when you think about the cost associated with the study, please just don't only think about tuition fees and accommodation. There are other expenses which you should always, keep into an account. So apart from tuition fees and accommodation, health insurance is there, food, how much the food cost will be there. Transportation, if the student is studying on campus, then the transportation is not that a big deal. But if the student is in an urban campus where they have to use public transport, then how they're going to use that transport. What will happen if the student is living in a place where it will snow? So you have to make sure that you are keeping these things into account. So clothing and footwear, again, if it's an area where the weather is changing, then these things should be taken into consideration. The warm clothes that we buy in India hardly work there. So these are important aspects students should look into. Stationery, laptop, textbooks, and other expenses, like if suppose someone has to go for an internship, and then suppose someone has to have some incidental expense, like going to a friend's party, social events, if someone has to attend them. So these things should be taken into consideration. And when we think about tuition and fees, although that's the decision that will come once you are making that decision, and once you have that decision, this is the place my kid will go. There are certain ways by which you can keep these things into consideration. For example, public institution or private. There is no right or wrong, because public institution, these are institutions where the number of students are high, and but the cost is less compared to private institution. Private institutions are more focused. Student to faculty ratio is different. It's generally very low. Even if it's a research institution, then definitely that's a different advantage to that. So it's always about what is the priority of the student. Not every university is good for every student. You have to think about the right fit. We at US universities always talk about the right fit, and it has nothing to do with ranking. It has nothing to do with the quality of education. It has to do with what student is looking for, and what student can do well in a university. For example, if someone who's very research focused, that person should think about going to a research focused university. A person is looking for a liberal art program, that they can consider the liberal art universities also. So it's something that students should consider, and if the funding is the criteria, they have to take decisions accordingly. And cost of living is also, it also varies based on whether you are going for an urban campus or a suburban campus. Because an urban campus, the cost of living will definitely be high. And if if you're going to a major city and living into the city environment, the cost of living will be a significant expense. Now, funding your studies, how someone will fund the studies. There are financial aid and scholarship that's available by the university, and one can apply beforehand. For international students, most of the universities, they provide merit-based scholarship. Need-based scholarships are very limited, and even there, if there will be a need-based scholarship, the priority will be given to someone who is having a better academic or overall candidature. Most of the US university, they look for holistic admission review. And when we say about holistic admission review, means that your grades are not the everything that the university will look into. They will look into your leadership potential, your initiative taking capabilities, how well you are doing, not only in your study, but in your class, in your community, in your ecosystem, because they want to see that how that student will be able to use the infrastructure and support initiatives that the university is providing to the students. So please keep these things into consideration. Personal and family saving is the biggest contributor for student in terms of financing their studies. They can also take loans from US or Indian lender. If they have to take loan from US lender, then there has to be a co-guarantor who is based out of US. And if there's an Indian lender, then definitely there are certain formalities which you have to submit and complete. There are certain foundations or institution who also provide scholarship, they have certain criteria. I will not be able to discuss everything in detail, but you can go into their respective websites and look for more information. Aga Khan Foundation, Rotary Club, Tata Group, in Laks Shivdasani Foundation. So these are few organizations that provide funding to the students. Many students who are very good in sports, they opt for sports scholarship, although they are very limited. But I've seen many students getting that scholarship from India also. If someone who is a US citizen and in India, they can also apply it for FAFSA loans. So how it went for students in the previous intake. So if you see the Open Doors report, which is they publish in coordination with Institute of International Education, which is IIE. So you can see that, the family and personal contribution, 54% of the total, they relied on personal and family contribution. Many of them, they got funds from foreign the government or current employment, but these things, current employment is not as big a contributor for undergraduate students. So you can see this by this chart also, and in this chart also you can see that it's the major contributor is the personal and family. US government, college or university, the scholarship and financial aid that they provide is the second biggest contributor. So please make sure you are understanding that these are the major things, the way students finance their education. And that's why I always say the families have to decide well in advance if they want their kids to study in USA and where the funding will come for all the 4 years. Because please try to understand, it's not, although you don't have to show beyond 1 year, but you should be having some idea that where the money will come for rest of the years. Now, I'd like to highlight certain terms which you should be aware of. Co-ops and internship. Many times the students and families think that the students will go for internships and co-ops and provide some support to the families in terms of financing this education. So co-ops are generally, they are always paid. Internship can be paid or it can be unpaid. But please understand, sometimes students, for at least for the first 2 semesters, they prefer to go for internship for some sort of work experience, even if they're not paying, because ultimately they're getting an exposure and experience. And when you talk about co-ops, it's generally for 2 or more semesters. Internship, generally 1 semester. Co-ops are full times, involve multiple departments, provide richer experience because you'll be working like a full-time employee and you will be getting full knowledge, and you will be making a significant contribution to the organization as well as for yourself. Uh, Internships are generally part-time, involves one department provides some level of training where you can make a first of all learn something about the skill or trade where you want to work in future, plus make a name for yourself which you can use when you'll be applying for the full-time positions either in that organization or in similar organizations. So the money that you might get from these, it can be supplementary to the money that you have for your education. You should not rely on these opportunity to fund your studies, and should not make it as a plan that I will use these funds only when I am going to finance my education. The part-time jobs, when you think about financing your studies, so these are the jobs that student can go for when they are studying on campus. I have kept these jobs from the perspective of a undergraduate students, but please understand, research assistant or teaching assistant, it will be difficult for a student who is just going into that program. If you are into third year or fourth year, and if you're doing really well in your research work, then these jobs will be possible. But you can still go for the tutor or peer mentor when you are third year. Student services, you can work from the first year itself. Campus ambassador, it's an amazing opportunity, and that comes after second year onwards, because you need to know a lot about the campus or your tour guide, so that you can explain the same information to the incoming students in future. Now talking about some non-traditional jobs, you can be a library monitor. You can work as a receptionist. You can work as a sales assistant, catering assistant. There are few jobs which students don't consider. It's the university bookstore. University bookstore is a major employment opportunity for not for every students, but for few students, and it's not too much work, and it's a good opportunity because these are some good places where students can work. Babysitter, although not many students will consider, but this is another opportunity which is very prevalent for people who are in US, because some most of the time both the parents are working, and if they are going somewhere, they prefer to have someone who can babysit their kids. So these are few opportunities for students. Please keep certain things in mind, and it's for both students as well as families. Uh, Please understand, working outside permitted workers is something which is strict no, because first of all, it's against the legal compliance of your visa, and second thing is that uh, you know you're going for studies. At the end of the day, if anything that is affecting your grades, it should not be something that you should be indulging in. Students and families, 90% they don't consider the overall cost of living. Many times they omit one cost or another. Make sure you are taking everything into consideration when you are making that decision, and when you are looking at how much funds is required and how much funds you are arranging. Sometimes students have unrealistic expectation regarding what portion of the cost part-time job can cover. Many times they just think that, okay, fine, I will get a job, I will earn 20 hours per week, $10 per hour, and this much amount I will get. Try to understand you have to pay taxes also. Then it's not important that every time you get a job immediately. It is contingent on so many different things. um, Look what happened during COVID. Many times the students were not able to work on campus, and suddenly all of their cost calculation went out of the window. So please make sure you are not totally relying on these part-time jobs only for your financing your education. Focusing on getting part-time jobs in the first semester, that's, I think, it's something that you should tread with caution, because when you go to a university, it's a very different experience and requirements than your 10 plus 2. There will be different coursework, different expectation, assignments will be different. There will be lots of assignment that where the teamwork will be required. So first semester, I always say, please see where you are standing. That will give you a realistic idea that how much time you have in hand, and that will also give you a boost in terms of your GPA. But if you're focusing too much on getting a part-time job and your GPA suffers in the first semester itself, then for the rest of the semester you will be playing the catch-up game only. So make sure that you are not falling into the trap. Um, Again, another thing which I always think about the non-traditional jobs also. Apart from teaching assistantship, research assistantship, think about how other way you can look into. And I explained some of the options in the previous slide. Many times students, they don't plan the budget. Hey, there's a party, let's go enjoy. Let's go have a pizza party. Let's go there, go here, and suddenly the money is exhausted by 15th, and for rest of the month you are calling your parents and everyone, hey, I am falling short of funds, can you please send me more money? So make sure that you are having the monthly planning or budget planning. Do you track your expenditure? Understand that how much money you have in hand, and spend accordingly. um, Please make sure that you're saving some money for some contingencies. For example, if you have to come to India for any reason, or you have to apply for certain jobs which is for which the interview is in a different location altogether. So make sure you have some emergency funds. Please spend more on needs rather than wants. That's a very important thing. If you have surplus funds, you can spend wherever you want to. But if you really want to, live a uneventful life where you're having lots of adverse events, I prefer you should spend very wisely and keep everything into consideration. If you are opting for credit card, make sure that you are not denting your credit scores. These are very important. If you are having a bad credit score, you will face difficulty in future if you're going for loans, and that's something which every employer will also look into. That the background check, credit score is also a part of your background check. So make sure you're not denting your credit scores also. There are certain other consideration which you should keep in mind. The primary purpose why you are going to US is to study, and part-time job is just to complement and finance a portion of it. If you're focusing too much on part-time job, and if your credit score or if your studies getting affected because of that, that's something which is going to affect your long-term employment opportunities. So make sure that you're not doing that, because for the first two jobs, your GPA will be looked, and so please focus on that. Keep an eye on your scholarship and requirements. The scholarship that you have received from the university, always see that what's the minimum criteria on which it's hinged on, whether they require B plus or certain GPA that you have to maintain. Make sure that you do that. If you're getting the Dean scholarship, you can get more scholarships in future years also. So studies are very important. Keep on looking for scholarship that's available into the in university and apply for them. Students also need to be aware about the funds in hand and effectively use the funds. It's very important. Family should also keep some funds ready, because you never know how much when the students require. And it's a continuous communication that is required between the students and the families. Where they are, how much funds they have, and so that both are aware about the situation. Students should also not go with the herd mentality. If there are four of the friends are going for a party, you should also not tag along and say, hey, it's okay, everyone is going, I should also go and spend. You should also keep into consideration how much money you have in hand, and spend accordingly. I don't want to be someone who's giving all the gyan, but that's not what my intentions are. And my intentions are only students to be aware about. These are financial mismanagements which students fall into. I was also international students. Many times I learned all these things with experience, and that's what I'm passing on. Internship and co-ops should be used very wisely. Think about it as an opportunity to showcase your skills, your value to prospective employers in future. The work done well into these opportunity will help you not only earn money while you are a student, but also look for provide a better employment opportunity in future. It can be best years of one's life if planned effectively. If not, it can be traumatic for everyone involved. So with that, I would like to close my presentation and invite my colleague to take over from here.
Thank you, Shishir. Kathleen will be coming on with her presentation shortly.
Thank you so much, Shishir. Put up my presentation. So first I want to say hello and welcome everybody. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I am Assistant Dean in the College of Engineering and Computer Science at Syracuse University. I am really excited to be part of this Education USA webinar and application camp series. I want to really thank Anita, Ramya, Deborah, and Pratika for all your support and friendship and collegial enthusiasm across the miles. And to all the students and families who are here, we just want to wish you the best of luck in this process. And I think your participation in this series is really important because it helps to give you some valuable insight into this process. Just really quick about myself. I am a graduate of Syracuse University. It's my alma mater, and I have over 20 years, I can hardly believe it, of admissions and recruiting experience. On many of those years spent traveling to and recruiting students in India And recruiting students from India is one of the best parts of my job, and also one of the cherished memories in my heart. So I'm, again, very excited to be here. For those of you who don't know, Syracuse University is among the top universities in the United States. It is a private institution, and we're located in upstate New York, right in the center of the state. And I wanted to mention, it is a Carnegie One institution, which means there's a very high level of research interest and research productivity. And that's very important for students who are considering programs, graduate programs. I represent in particular programs in engineering and computer science. And just to mention again, a quick profile about the programs that I represent. And the focus of my slides and my presentation today is to talk about funding and opportunities for students interested in graduate programs in the United States. And when I have these types of presentations, I always like to really help students and families with the why graduate school in the United States. I thought Shishir did a great job talking about, you know, some of the very important considerations for funding. And as he said, and I want to just fully agree, this is a huge investment of your time, your resources, your talent. And so it's important continually as you think about this is to keep the why in mind. How is this going to help you in your short term and in your long-term future? And a couple of quick notes about that. A graduate degree, for those who are interested, is increasingly considered the next step in a student's development and professional training. Graduate degree, whether it's a master's or PhD, allows students to expand and to build on their technical expertise, which is so needed in the world today. A graduate degree tends to result in a higher starting salary, so that's important when you consider the return on your investment. It certainly opens more doors and really helps to support and increase students' mobility in terms of their job and in their life career choices. And it is no overstatement to say that there's a great global demand, certainly here in the United States and all over the world, for engineering and computer science expertise and excellence at the graduate level. Also, I wanted to mention the availability of the STEM.
Sorry, Kathleen,
Yes.
Are you sharing your screen? We are not able to see it.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's fine.
Thank you for telling me.
No problem, Kathleen.
That was only a couple of slides. Thank you.
No, not at all. You're welcome. Thanks.
And then just to mention, as I was saying, the availability of the STEM extension, which allows students in STEM fields extended work authorization in the United States. And one reason I wanted to mention this is that there are increasingly programs being added to this STEM extension. So that's something that you should look for before you apply for any program. So as we talked about financing an advanced degree, so before I did this presentation, I did a little bit of research trying to kind of get a scope of the range of cost of attendance fees. And it's roughly, we're looking at, for a 2-year master's degree, approximately $45,000 up to $110,000. It may be even more in US dollars. So that's usually encompasses a 2-year master's degree. When we look at what does that include, the fee structure typically includes the cost of your tuition, so the cost of the degree itself, associated fees, books and supplies. And I have to say that increasingly professors are trying to use other technologies to help reduce fees. We all are very mindful of cost of attendance, but this is something you have to keep in mind. Your living allowance, so the cost of your accommodation, meals, your daily expenses, that's also figured into the total cost of attendance. Transportation, getting to the United States, and any transportation that you may have while you're a student is something to also consider, and health insurance. So health insurance generally is a mandatory fee for students enrolled in graduate programs in the United States, and I believe for undergrad also. Shishir mentioned quite a few of these things, so I'm going to be somewhat brief, but there's a lot that students and families should take into consideration when you're thinking about cost. The location of the campus can have a great sort of impact on cost of attendance. So urban versus rural, large city versus smaller city, your cost of living may vary from location to location. There's also consideration as to the distinction here in the United States of private versus public institution. I want to mention that this distinction does not have a bearing on quality. There are very high quality institutions in the United States that are public and others that are private. But the distinction really comes down in terms of cost of attendance. You may see some difference in those numbers. A couple of other things to consider when you're looking at cost of attendance, when you're considering the cost of a degree in one of these fields, the outcome. So touched on this briefly, but what will this degree do to enhance your career placement, your opportunities after you graduate? That's something to take into consideration. The Alumni Network, that is another sort of piece that is very essential to students in terms of their success in the job field. So think about that when you're looking at the cost of attendance of an institution. A few other things I mentioned here: faculty reputation, facilities, access to technology, the diversity of the student community, as well as activities on campus. So cost of attendance is quite a complex calculation, but these are some things to consider when you are thinking about that, as again, that expense. So funding opportunities. So as I said, I've done many years of recruitment in India, and I always love to have the opportunity to talk to students. And one of the big questions, of course, is what is the fee structure, and are there scholarships? So for graduate students, and I'm talking particularly about master students, but if there are any PhD students, we'll be happy to answer any questions for you. In general, what does the funding look like? So it really depends from school to school, and it is important that you ask ahead of time. So I loved when Shishir mentioned planning ahead, asking ahead is really essential in this process. But in general, many schools will offer some variety of funding opportunities that will include scholarships and or tuition grants. So these are generally merit-based. They're based on your academic profile, and they'll be based on your undergraduate grades, your courses, your recommendations, your overall academic achievement. And so those are generally available. You apply for admission, you are considered for these awards. But again, it's important to ask ahead before you apply to know if these awards are even available for master's students. Some programs may also offer opportunities such as teaching assistantships or research assistantships. These are always very popular. But here too, it's really important that you ask ahead. Like in our program, for example, teaching assistantships and research assistantships are generally reserved for PhD students, not for master's students. So it's important that you know that ahead of time so that you can plan accordingly. There are also really good opportunities on campus and in your department for opportunities such as working with faculty as graders, so helping to grade student assignments, and tutoring. A lot of graduate students will take advantage of opportunities to serve as tutors. These are paid opportunities. A lot of graduate students will work on campus. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And as a last note, that because I'm not going to talk about it very much, is family funds and loans. So just campus jobs. So I want to mention, for the work that I do, master's students, it's a very short and quick experience that you have with us. It's generally a 2-year program, 4 semesters, so time goes very quickly. A lot of times graduate students will work on campus, and a lot of times they'll work in their first semester because they have some experience or are a little bit, a little older than, we'll say, a first-year student starting. So when students work on campus, there are incredible advantages that they take advantage of. It's an opportunity to connect and become acquainted with the campus life and culture, to connect with faculty, staff, and other students on campus. It is a resume builder. So when you're new to the United States, it's wonderful when you have the opportunity to begin to acquire experiences and to learn, right? You learn a lot about American culture. You learn a lot about new ways of doing things. And so all around, it can be a really wonderful experience. And for some students too, it becomes sort of part of their family on campus. They really get to know and feel a connection to a group on campus. And that's a real advantage to new students. There are some, for students who work on campus, there are some invisible or unexpected perks. So for example, students who work in the dining halls will often have, as part of their pay structure, they will be able to eat in the dining hall. So that's a big perk for some students. We also have, I thought of this high profile game. So Syracuse, like USC, is a school that has big athletics and big time football and basketball. So when students work in our athletic facilities, they not only get to make some money, but they also get to really see and experience some exciting college sports. This next bullet, I put a couple of asterisks next to it because I want to go back to what Shir mentioned. When you are a student in a university, you're a student first. Your number one job is your academics. Doing well academically is why you are here with us. Campus job is secondary, even for, as I said, master's student, but for many, it is still an important part of their experience. Students can generally, they tell me, many of them can earn up to $1,000 a month, which covers a big portion of their living expenses. But I caution you on this because that's 20 hours per week. 4 weeks a month, right? That's a heavy load, especially when you are a full-time student. So you have to take everything into moderation. But that, as I said, is sort of a general guideline on what students can earn through their campus jobs. And what do campus jobs look like? So as I said, there's a Syracuse University, like USC, like many of these universities are big, busy places with many moving parts. So there's a lot of opportunity to work on campus, whether that's, I already mentioned the dining halls, working in the sports facilities, working in the library, working in the bookstore, working in the gym, working in the recreation facilities. So a lot of these are campus jobs. And we do have an online campus portal where students can look for these jobs and apply for them. Also, upper class students are a really good source of information in terms of helping connect new students to these opportunities. I love working with students in general. I wanted to give you a couple of sort of tangible examples. We talked earlier about the opportunity, potential for earning. So some good examples are on-campus co-ops and internships. I use our programs at Syracuse as an example. Our CASE co-op program allows students to work with an industry partner. It's an external work opportunity, but you are a full-time Syracuse student, which allows us to make sure you get paid, but also get that hands-on experience, which is so vital. Also, internships, our career services will help students to get opportunities to work in industry, even during the pandemic. Students were finding very, very good opportunities. So the job market is quite strong. But again, as Shashir mentioned, these are opportunities that are ahead. So you can't apply thinking that this is going to happen to you. There's no guarantee, So I'm going to talk about that in just a few moments, but just to give you some idea of other funding potential opportunities that are available to graduate students here in the United States. Love this, thinking outside of the box. So how can we, I showed you a list that included scholarships, grants, and some other opportunities, but what are some other ways of thinking about how can I fund my studies? Thinking outside the box can include looking outside your home department. So for example, where I work, a lot of students are interested, let's say in computer science, but there, again, it is a comprehensive campus with a lot of moving parts and a lot of offices that are looking for student help. So to look outside the box and to say, I'm going to study computer science, but I'm going to work in the library, or I'm going to work for campus IT services. So there's a lot of ways for you to connect what you're doing to other offices, and again, to help you with some funding for your studies and your living expenses. I have a lot of examples of students who have hobbies outside of their studies. So students who are very, let's say, for example, very good photographer, student in that situation, able to find a job with the university media services. So again, there's ways that students are able to navigate their experience with some work that complements their talents. For graduate students, it's helpful to think outside of the box in terms of not just what a university can award you in terms of funding, but external scholarships. So Google is a great tool to help you to find what are some of the external awards that you can apply for. One that came to my mind right away was Fulbright, and that is something that you can look into. I want to mention and give a huge shout out to the EducationUSA team in India, across India. The advisors and the REACs are they are your experts. They have on the ground insight and information about how students have done it in the past, and also have good contacts with universities to help you navigate this big question of funding. Some tips and suggestions. These are tips and suggestions that I have sort of put together based on my experience of working with students. And again, some of this really reflects what Shashir mentioned, but I'm going to reiterate because it is so important. As a new student, as a new master's student, it is important to concentrate on your academic performance and take advantage of the opportunity to get to know your faculty and staff in your first semester. As I mentioned, this is a 4-semester program, so time does move quickly. But in that first semester, it's an ideal time to get to know your professors, get to know the staff in the departments, get to know as many as you can, because in doing so, you're building your network, and that's going to help you to open doors to opportunity. I reiterate this below, getting to know the upper class students who are your seniors. They, I think, they hold the key to a lot of the opportunity on campus and really can help incoming students, new students, kind of on the ins and outs of campus funding opportunities. And as we mentioned before, think outside of the box in terms of how can you utilize your talent, what you're passionate about, in addition to your studies, to help you, again, not just with funding, but also with building your resume, building your network, and building your skill set, which is so important in a very competitive world that we live in today. I already mentioned the photographer. I want to mention also that there's such an increasing role in the United States for student influencers. So students who are really handy with like Instagram and other social media tools that are able to find opportunity on campus, in campus employment. This is kind of a do's and don'ts, but I've described it as lessons learned and observed. This is really important. This is a piece of advice that I have lived with and lived by really for the entirety of my career, and that is to make your enrollment decision based on the information on hand. So what I mean by that is when you apply to a university, when you're admitted to a university, they will tell you at the start what kind of funding they're going to offer you. if they are going to offer you. It's really important that you make your decision based on that information, not on what you think might happen, not on thinking, I'm going to get an internship, all these things are going to happen. As Shashir mentioned, that really can be grounds for a lot of challenges. So when you apply, when you're admitted, find out what your financial support is going to look like. I'll talk in a moment about opportunity, but I think it's really important that you make the best decision for yourself based on the information on hand, not on things that you think might happen or, opportunities that aren't available to you at first. Establish yourself. So again, take the opportunity, get engaged in your classwork, get to know your faculty, establish yourself on a firm academic footing. The hard work, the perseverance, the intellect, everything that you did in India or elsewhere to get to the university, keep that up. That's what's going to help you go to the next level, both in terms of opportunity, additional funding potential. A lot of students will really be very, consumed with how do I get a teaching assistantship and how do I get a graduate assistantship? And I always say to them, just get engaged in your work, get to know the faculty. Those opportunities will come, but there's no guarantee. You just have to really keep up the hard work. The next bullet is important too, and I was trying to find a nicer word, but I think I just have to use this word, is to avoid scams. It's unfortunate, but I will always have students who come to me showing me emails promising like a very high campus job pay, different kinds of things that really sound good, but that are not legitimate. And myself, my team in engineering, our international services office, all of us are committed to the success and to the overall well-being of our students. So when in doubt, if something sounds too good, please check it, because we don't want to see you fall into a situation that's just not good for you. And for those of us in the field, it's really easy for us to spot these things, but for students, sometimes it just seems so good. So again, just keep your guard up on those things, and always ask for help when needed. And abide by the policies on campus. And these are not just for sort of keeping in terms of policy, but it's for your well-being. As we've already talked about, your success as a student, your overall well-being. These are really important because we want you we want you to go on to long-term success and happiness and all of those things. So having a good start and having a good balance in school will help you. And that includes, having moderation in terms of your outside work and working too many hours and things like that. So we, for example, have a policy that students cannot work any more than 20 hours per week. So that's important, and we keep an eye on that for your best interest, and also working on campus only, right? So again, to work on campus, you have to have a job that is based on the university or through the university, not working, off campus at the shopping mall or something else. Those are not allowed and could potentially harm you or your visa status. So we don't want anything like that. When in doubt, just talk to an advisor or talk to, someone from international services. The last piece of advice I wanted to offer, and again, my work has always been around the best interests and success of students that I meet. And I pulled this actually from an email that I must have sent it thousands of times to students, because again, a lot of times, and I completely understand, students are worried, like, how am I going to, how are we going to fund this? How is this going to work? And the advice just goes back to things that we've already mentioned, and that is, engage in your first semester, do your best to be successful and to get the good grades, and to, again, build your network, get involved. And you'll see what I say. Once you're admitted and complete a successful first semester, students can then begin to apply internally for things like assistantships or teaching, as I mentioned before, grading positions. As I said, there's no promise or guarantee these things are going to happen, right? So you really have to sort of, make the decision to attend a school on the best information you have when you're admitted, but to know that with continued hard work, with involvement, and really staying the course with your academics and your overall growth and development, that good things will happen. And I've seen it over the years, but we always caution you to be wise, to plan ahead, and to ask for help when you need it. Last slide. Thank you all very, very much. And I'm going to turn it back over now to Anita and Ramya.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Now I will go ahead and share my screen and go on with the question and answer section. But before that, we do have a little bit to talk about Education USA and the services that we provide, etc. All right. So again, thank you both, Kathleen and Shishir, for a wonderful presentation, a lot of information. We are getting a lot of very, very interesting questions. I'll be asking them again to you all in a bit. Yeah, but before that, Education USA is a network that promotes US higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about opportunities to studying in the United States in any of the accredited post-secondary institutions in the United States. Most of Education USA India's events and programmings and activities are carried on right now virtually. So we invite you to connect with us via the following ways. In India, our toll-free number is 1-800-103-1231. Again, that is 1-800-103-1231 for everybody's information. So apart from that, we do have a free virtual Ask Your Advisor session almost every day of the week except for Sundays. So if you can log in into any of our websites, you will find the timing and the link to register for that as well. There are a lot of free virtual specialized information sessions such as this one, a lot of good webinars we have on the processes regarding admissions and applications as well. These are with accredited US universities, with very well-meaning university representatives like Kathleen and Shishir today. And also we do have individual advising membership opportunities and programs across the 8 centers in Education USA India. So again, yeah, we do have our membership program that is for you. This is for your reference. You can take screenshots of this, information, and then always you can reach out to us if you have more questions and if you want to know more about the guided advising program that we have, and you can see some of the testimonials that were given by our members over the years. Yeah, again, this is a wonderful resource, our Education USA India YouTube page for you all. A lot of recorded webinars and information sessions are put up as playlists and individual videos on this channel. You have to just go to YouTube and type Education USA India, and you will find all of the videos in there, and then you can see or view the topic of your choice at your free time and then benefit from these. These are all free resources that you can absolutely use, given out by university representatives, and these universities are accredited US higher education institutions. All right, moving on. Yes, again, we are excited to announce our Education USA South Asia Fall Tour. This is a virtual tour, the tour of 2022. We do have the Graduate virtual tour, on September 3rd, and the undergraduate tour is going to happen on 10th September 2022. So watch out on all of our social media spaces. We will be announcing the links to register for students and the other timing and all other formalities related to the fall virtual tour. Definitely watch out for that information, and you can meet accredited institutions, talk to them one-on-one, and figure out your higher education plans with them. All right. Now, again, thank you again for joining our Education USA Application Camp series of webinars 2022. Today's session is about to get over, and then we have to remind you that there are 6 more sessions in this series. The next one is on August 17th, and we have wonderful topics lined up for you. The next topic is navigating undergraduate application portals, exam application camp series topic for you all, especially for undergrad students. So don't miss this. Register and get on to the session. And if you want to look at the older sessions of this year or from the previous year's application app camps, definitely YouTube is the place for you all to go ahead and look at it. We have created playlists for these application camp webinars, and you can watch them at your free time. All right. Once again, we are, putting up the different centers at Education USA India. These are our 8 centers in 8 different cities. All of these cities over here. Our contact information is put up here. Please take a screenshot if you want and contact us whenever you have the need to know about anything related to studying in the United States. All right, now we have come towards the much awaited question and answer section of this webinar. I will stop my screen share and then I'll ask our eminent panelists the questions that have come our way today. All right, the first question is, let me just take the questions. All right, it's about research. The student is asking which are good research-based undergraduate engineering colleges or universities apart from the top names. How do I figure out the research institute that would suit me? Any help would really be appreciated. Kathleen, can I post this question to you?
Sure, thanks, Ramya. So I think that's a great question, and I think everyone here would agree one of the great assets of studying in the United States is that there are so many universities, so many outstanding universities. And as actually Shashir mentioned, the fit of a university is really important for every individual student. So not every university is perfect for everyone. So again, participating in a session like this will help you to hear more about that. So I mentioned the Carnegie Ranking. That's a ranking here in the United States that ranks institutions based on research, productivity, and output. And there's several different levels of that. And those levels don't indicate sort of quality or reputation or ranking of the university. It's more to do with the level of research. Some schools are more kind of have a really high research profile. Some schools have kind of more of a nuanced in terms of teaching and research. So that Carnegie list, and again, you can just Google, I can put it in the chat to see all the different schools on the Carnegie classification. One thing I think, the pandemic was really difficult for everybody. And I don't think that there were very many silver linings, but there was actually one, I think, as it relates to students and to learning more about schools. A lot of schools, in addition to this session of Education USA, do virtual sessions. And these are a good way to hear from representatives, hopefully see some current students and learn about schools from them. And that also will help kind of give you a feel if a school is right for you or not. And again, I keep talking about Google, but Google research universities in the US, and their website will also be a good way for you to get more information. I hope that is helpful.
Yes, it is very helpful. Thank you, Kathleen. The next question either of you can take. I'll just read it out. For US citizens living in India, what is the base tax year, considering the tax year is different from that in the United States? Kathleen or Sishir, anyone can go for this answer?
Look, the point is that where they are filing taxes, are they filing taxes in states, or are they filing taxes in India? So that's one thing they have to consider. And if they are filing taxes in both, I don't think at present anyone is filing going for double taxation. You know, no one wants to go for the double taxation. And and if you have a US record, definitely that's something which will US university will look into. And if you don't have, then definitely we will go with Indian taxation system. So I don't think this should be a problem for someone who is filing taxes. So it's pretty much self-explanatory.
All right. Yes, Kathleen.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that. Schools generally have a financial aid office. I would just check. You could check ahead with them to see what they're requiring, but to help clarify too what the requirements are.
Okay, wonderful. Related to this question is, how can I find an US private sponsor?
You don't have to find it. You either know someone or you don't know someone. So I don't think anyone will be willing to be your sponsor unless until you know that person. So if you have a relative who's living in US and they are ready to help you in this process, then they can help. But you cannot go on and requesting someone to be the sponsor. So I don't think that works that way.
All right. Thank you, Sishir. All right, so the next question goes like this. It is more about the need blind and the need aware policies of different universities. So they are saying the admission policies of US universities are mainly need blind and need aware. So I don't want to lose the admission opportunity in need aware universities. So is it possible that I can apply without aid requirement for, to a need aware institution and apply with aid requirement to a need blind institution? Are universities actually need blind when they claim it?
If they are claiming it, they are. And, please, again, the whole session today is from the perspective is that please make sure that you are aware about your financial situation when you are going to study in any university. And if you're thinking about whether you get an admission and you will not be able to afford, if you're not able to afford, don't apply. It's not a small amount. And you don't want to be there for 2 years and then suddenly realize, oh my God, I don't have any money for rest of the years.
Yeah.
So it will be a dire situation. At that point of time, you have already invested your 2 years and lots of money, and you will not be able to take any step at that point of time. And please understand the situation of your family, please. And if the family is making that decision, they should understand the requirement and the situation that they have in hand. So be honest to yourself, be honest to the university. And if the university is claiming that they are need blind, they don't look at finances when the decisions are being made. But at the end of the day, you have to rely on their expenses, which no university will cover. For example, your housing, your tickets, your stationery. You need to be able to afford those costs. So please keep this in mind. And it's a very tricky situation if you are going that way just to get an admission. You're not going to get an admission. You have to think from the perspective that whether I will be able to afford that university or not. So that's an important thing that you should ask yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Shishir. The next question is regarding co-ops and internships. The student is asking, when is the best time for grad school to start applying co-ops and internships? Secondly, are there any location restrictions for co-ops or internships? As in, will it have to be in the same state as the university is located? Kathleen?
Thank you, Ramya. So that's a good question. I want to really clarify between co-op and internship as it relates to our program at Syracuse. Again, every institution may have a different model. Our co-op program is regional to the upstate New York area. And how it works is a student, not in their first semester. So usually it's in their second or third semester. They can connect with the office in the first semester, but usually there's no work until at least the second semester. And how that program works is a student can work for a local company. Actually, remote opportunities have really increased also since the pandemic. They're being paid through Syracuse University, right? So they're not using any of their work authorization time for this co-op because it's basically a campus job with an industry partner. And that's through the CASE co-op program. Internships are different. Internships can be generally anywhere in the United States. A lot of times students like to go out to Silicon Valley in California or to other kind of tech hub areas, especially like in computer science. So they have to get a permission from their home department to do this. And of course, they have to make the connection with the employer. We have things like career fairs where companies come, they will, talk to students or recruit students for those opportunities, but there's a process that you have to go through with your department as well as international services to be approved for that work experience. But again, it really can be almost anywhere in the United States. It doesn't have to be in Syracuse.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen. This is a wonderful clarification that you gave us. All right. There was a question about the presenter from Brown University. We'll have to apologize that due to some unavoidable circumstance, the representative from Brown is not able to join us today. So we do have USC and Syracuse with us answering away all your questions, and they are very, very, they just presented a very extensive, informative presentation. And if you have missed the first part of this session, we are recording this and you can definitely go back and look it up on our YouTube page, that is Education USA India YouTube page. All right. Does Syracuse University provide funding for startups?
Thanks, Ramya. So I want to really share my screen for just a moment.
Yes.
And go back to a picture because I picked this on purpose. Hopefully I can do that. Oh, I don't think it's going to work. Well, the last slide that I presented, I had some words of encouragement, and I said, with hard work and, staying the course, good things will happen. And I had a picture of a student, an international student, and what she was holding was a check, right? So there are a lot of opportunities, I would say, at Syracuse, and I am sure at USC and other institutions, where there's opportunities for students to innovate and to become inventors and to apply their skills in really cool ways. We have a program, it's called Invented SU, and the whole idea is to encourage and support students' startup activities. And that student I showed you was holding a check for funding that she received for her startup. So there's a center on campus that supports this activity. So the answer is yes, there is definitely support for student startups. So put your creativity hat on and come to us with great ideas. And I promise there'll be a lot of support for your energy.
Thank you, Kathleen. Sishir, would you like to add to this point?
For sure, I think but Kathleen has really summed it up very well. Most of the US universities, especially the ones where it's research focused, they are always very entrepreneurial, and they always support students initiative, because try to understand that's what they are there for. And and with structured learning and with good teammates, you can definitely fine tune your entrepreneurial venture or project, and understand it from different perspective. And if you require funding, they can help you not only provide funding themselves but also get funding from the VCs also. They understand how this ecosystem work. And so it's the support is always there. One thing which I always suggest students to do when they are going to any US universities is to ask for help. They will not know that where you need support. You have to go and write the right person what you require, and if you ask the right person the right question, you will get answers. And so shed your inhibitions when you are there. Ask the supporting infrastructure. They will guide you to the right person. Once you are in front of the right person, ask the right question and you will get the support.
Wonderful. There's a related question which just came in. Are these startups allowed for international students as well? Because they will be in a restricted F1 student visa.
So I want to answer because I want to just follow up with what Shishir just said, and to kind of to all these questions is always, please always ask for help if you're in doubt and you are not clear on something. We all work in higher ed. I work on a college campus because I want to see students succeed and achieve their dreams. But sometimes just asking for help is like the first step to getting there. When we talk about opportunity like Invented SU or what Shishir has mentioned, we work very closely with International Services Office to ensure that anything that's done or any awards that are given are in compliance with any sort of immigration or visa, consideration. So I want to, I don't want to speak specifically about our start, because again, you're enrolled as a student on a U.S. campus. So within the consideration of international services, you will have all these opportunities. I'm not sure how the money part works out, but I can promise you we would all look out for you and make sure the best for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both Shishir and Kathleen. There are a lot of very, very personal questions related to personal profiles coming across. I would highly recommend that you can reach out to any of the Education USA centers if you need more guidance and clarification on application and admissions processes. Definitely, we will be able to help you out, or you can directly reach out to our eminent panelists today, both Shishir and Kathleen, and clarify further. So yeah, this webinar is for the benefit of everybody, and then we will be discussing a lot of generic questions and generic informations which will be helpful for everybody. Thank you for your understanding. Now, the next question would be, what are the different ways that students can make money to support their living expenses, such as rents, etc., other than the TA-ships and the RA-ships? Both Kathleen and Shishir can take turns to answer this.
I think I spoke about that when I was presenting. There is a tutoring. Then and Kathleen also spoke about the opportunities with sports facilities. When production assistance is required when there is a drama or stage production that's happening at the university. USC is famous for cinematic arts and as well as for athletics. So I can say that there is a definite opportunities in those areas also. Apart from that, you can work as a sales assistant in the university bookstore, library requirement.
Yes.
Many times they require people. Technical service, library and technical service generally is one department where the technical services take care of IT needs. So you can, some those who are into computer sciences, they can also work into that space. Apart from that, there are campus ambassador, campus tour guides, and lots of opportunities that exist. Please make sure that you are aware about these opportunities, but at the same time, we are highly, emphasizing the importance of keeping your grades at the forefront. And first semester, you should always give to yourself. I always tell to every student, just to ensure that you are settling into the US education system, you are settling into the university, you understand what is required of you. And once you have that thing sorted out, then you can definitely, look at these things. When you think about the grading pattern, for each credit you have, for example, there's 1 hour class. So you have to do the homework of 2 hours and do the post study work for 3 hours. So you can, add it on and think about, how much investment that you have to make from time. And then you can understand that how much time you have in hand, and then act accordingly. Because, we all know the moment we keep on calculating and understanding these aspects, we will know that where I have pockets where I can invest. And once you understand that aspect of your I think schedule, along with your grad coordinator, your career coordinator, your curriculum guide, that's when you can find that whether I need to work in the core area just to enhance my networking and my knowledge and my skills, or I am just thinking of this as an opportunity to earn more money. And based on these things, you can decide what is best for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shishir. Kathleen, would you like to add to this? I think this student has joined us late and they have missed that part of the presentation. However, I would like to remind everybody that this presentation is recorded and the recording is available, will be available on YouTube for you to reference later. Over to you, Kathleen.
Sure, Ramya, thank you. So absolutely, I again am talking about graduate students, and a lot of times because they're on campus for a shorter time, they get started a little more quickly in terms of working on campus. A lot of times incoming graduate students will start working in the campus dining hall. So, helping in, because these are busy places. And for some of them, it's a kind of a good first stop, first of all, because those jobs are very plentiful and the pay is really actually very good per hour. Plus they get to eat while they're, after they work. But it's amazing once students are there a little while, how again, because they get to know the place, they get to know, they start to build their contacts. All of a sudden, it doesn't mean they're going to work in the dining hall for all 4 semesters. A lot of times they're going to move on or move up to other things like cool jobs, like working for event production. So when big speakers come to campus or special events, there's a whole team of people like doing the AV and doing all the sort of production work. I had a student come in last year from Pune, started in the dining hall, and a few weeks later he had like an event production shirt. I'm like, he said, Kathleen, I got this. It's wonderful to see how students can, they're very mobile on campus, they're able to navigate sort of the campus scene. And I want to say too, very quickly, these campuses, a lot of them are like small cities, right? That might be hard to imagine. Maybe a small town, but they're very busy. There's many moving parts. There's all kinds of sort of activity and daily sort of work to keep the campus going. And students from the US, international students, undergrad, graduate students, a lot of them are very essential in terms of the moving part piece of these campuses. So finding a job, it may not be glamorous at first, but I have to say, talking to students, a lot of times that campus job and the people they work with become almost like their family, and it's really sweet. And like when the students graduate, it's very like touching to me how much it has meant both to them as well as to the people they worked with. So a lot of opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen, for that wonderful narration.
Thank you.
Such inspiring accounts from both our panelists. Okay, here's a question from YouTube. Can one student apply for more than one scholarship? Maybe Shishir can take this up.
I think when you apply, at least for undergraduate, there is no specific scholarship that you apply for.
Mhm.
You are considered for scholarship when you tell us you have to fill a form for most of these. I think CSS profile is something which most of the universities look into. And when they look into your profile, they understand, this is what is expected family contribution, and this is where you require financial assistance. And that's when you get an admission and get a scholarship before you join the university. So that's the part where you get the information before you join the university. Once you are at the university, there are certain scholarship that you can apply to. Once you know what is the requirement, for example, dean scholarship, if you are doing well in your studies, you definitely get a dean scholarship continually.
Yeah.
Then there are other merit-based scholarship which you can get. Many times, there are many scholarship for women in STEM. In most of the universities, there is a scholarship for women in STEM. So again, those women who are working in STEM can apply for those scholarship. Apart from that, there are several other scholarship which keep on coming. So keep on checking with your academic coordinator and see that which opportunities are coming up. Make sure that you are having a very honest conversation with your coordinator so that they are aware about your situation and they can guide you accordingly. So once you have that conversation going, and keep an eye on scholarship, what is the requirement, and also check in advance, speak to your senior class students, which scholarship they applied to. Many times they give you guidance that these are scholarship that you can apply, in second year or third year or later on. So these things are very important. Make sure that you are very connected with the senior year batches and check with them what is there. And these people will get a job before you also. So they will be an amazing resource to not only talk about your academics but also talk about future employment opportunities. And if they know that you are a good person and you are entrepreneurial, you are curious, and you are always asking the right question, and it will be very helpful. So I think don't just think about one thing. You're going there, make sure that you have your ears and eyes open and keep on looking for opportunities.
Thank you, Shishir. All right. Yeah. So there's a question which is directly not related to this particular session, but then I'll anyways go ahead and ask because we have a representative from the undergraduate school as well, that is Shishir. What documents should parents keep ready before applying for undergraduate admissions? You can just generally give an overview of that, Shishir.
I don't think any university asks for any document beforehand, but make
Okay.
sure that you should be able to fill your CSS profile, because
Okay.
many universities ask for the same. And if the SAT examination student has given the SAT or any other test examination, the scores are ready, and you should be able to submit the test scores because all of them will require to have this official transcripts for them. Apart from that, AP scores or any other scores which a student is having, most of the US universities would prefer to have a look from 9th till 11th because the student will be in 11th when they in 12th, then they'll be applying. So 9th, 10th, 11th, the scores should be there because in US the high school is from 9th till 12th. So make sure that the student is having all those and you are having all those details ready beforehand when you're applying. So these are few important things that students should keep into consideration. The family should keep into consideration.
Thank you, Shishir. This was helpful. Now I've got a direct message. Kathleen, if you would answer this, it'll be great. For the OPT, what are the different divisions that students can work for? Like, for example, STEM optional practical training and non-STEM optional practical training. So after that, how many years are the students allowed to work as a part of the OPT scenario itself? So that is the question.
Sure, Ramya, thank you. So I mentioned this, that the STEM designation it's amazing to me how the list has grown over the past few years. So again, when you're applying for a university, you should check ahead to see if the program, so there are increasing number of like programs in business analytics and data analytics. And I've noticed that a lot of those are now STEM designated. So check that before you apply, so that you can plan accordingly. So as I mentioned before, our Office of International Services is a key partner to our college in terms of supporting students through these processes. My understanding is that students are eligible for 1 year of OPT, after which they can apply for an additional 24 months through the STEM extension. So that is, and again, there's language. If you just go to any university, I just read it myself on our International Services website, what is the STEM extension. And as I said, I think the big note for students is that it applies to programs. When we thought of it, it used to be like science, technology, engineering, math. But it really, the designation is broader than what we originally thought. Like I always think of engineering, but technology is so pervasive and growing so quickly that a lot of those programs now fall under that designation too. So something for you to look into.
Thank you, Kathleen.
One thing which I
Yeah.
like to add here is that make sure that you are applying in advance. Don't leave till the very end. You have to apply well in advance in order to get the legal permission beforehand. And Office of International Student and Services, they are the people whom you should keep get touch with. Not only for your OPT, but also your CPT, and there are certain rules that you should be aware of. For example, if your overall internship experience is more than 11 months, then you cannot have 1 year OPT post your studies. So make sure that you are aware about all the nitty-gritties and keeping a clear eye on what is required, what is available, and the documentation is very much important. So make sure that you are going to them post your first year and having a regular visit and check with them, and also try to understand, the policies are always dynamic. Things can be the same and can change also. So keep an eye on the legislation, keep a regular touch with the department, so that you are not taken by surprise in future. So always, keep an eye on that.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kathleen, you are going to say something.
I want to just cheer Shashir for saying that, and completely wholeheartedly agree. Please plan ahead, because it takes time to line up all your paperwork. And we do have students who come in very last minute, and it's stressful for you, it's stressful for the team. So plan ahead. There's certain folks on campus that should really be on your frequent contact list, and your academic department, I want to call them, they're experts, but your friends in international services, you should know them. Try your best to make someone have a connection with a close connection to someone. And even if that person doesn't know the answer, they can help point you to the right person. And that's really important, because you just want to make sure everything is lined up for the best overall experience in these situations.
And since we're on that topic, there's a question that asks about any resource websites that students can refer to know more about the CPT and the OPT information.
I referenced Syracuse University Office Syracuse University Center for International Services has an entire website on employment and on the various distinctions between OPT, CPT, and I can imagine that any university in the US that has international students would have reliable, valuable information for you.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
you should share that. Is a good
yes.
website.
Thank you, Shishir. Shishir has just posted the government website for you all to know more about OPT and CPT as well. And as Kathleen mentioned, it's important for international students to go ahead and look up the International Student Support Services website, and also to be, to be able to understand what they are going to offer, etc. So be sure to contact them as well. So yeah, with this, we don't have any more questions. This is a wonderful session. Both of you have given us a lot of information to think about, a lot of things to work on for students as well. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Shishir, for a wonderful evening of question and answers and very good information. Thank you once again from Education USA. I would like to thank our participants as well, the audience that have joined us today this evening. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful session. I hope you have gathered a lot of good information about studying in the United States, especially related to financing your studies, etc. So this session, not only this session, the older sessions, as well as the upcoming 6 more webinars, as well as the previous year's application app camp series webinars will be recorded, are all already recorded, and they are there. And today's session will be put up on YouTube in just about a day or two. You can always go back and look them up, learn a lot. And these are all free resources that Education USA is offering you all. Thank you once again, everybody. Thank you and good evening, and good morning to you, Kathleen.